Welcome to AFI Fest 2020, presented by Audi. I'm Claudia Puig, Senior Programmer for AFI Fest. I would like to thank all of our supporters, our presenting sponsor, Audi, our cultural supporter, Elma, our AFI members, as well as our audience. And thank you all so much for joining us for this very special virtual edition of AFI Fest. I'd like to introduce our moderator today, Tyra Martin. Tyra is a 5-time Emmy-nominated 22-year news veteran. She's a senior segment producer at WGN Morning News and WGN's entertainment producer, that's Chicago. She is also the executive producer of WGN's community affairs programming, including a bi-weekly show that gives voice to the concerns and solution finders in Chicago's Black community. Welcome, Tyra.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I join everyone else looking forward to enjoying things that are normal, like film festivals. And so that's why it's so important that these opportunities are here. Everyone has just seen RIVALE. I've seen it. I'm still trying to recover. Where is Roman? Is the child okay? Before we get to that, let's talk to the filmmakers. We have 3 of the folks behind this amazing piece with us today. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Marcus and Gunter.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Marcus Lenz. I'm the director of this movie. It's my second feature film, and I worked on this with these guys for 5 years, and I'm extremely proud that we can show this film in LA, and I would very much love to be there with you right now, actually. This is Gunter Hanfgarn.
I'm Gunter. I'm living in Berlin, and I'm running a production company since almost 30 years. I produce documentaries and features, and it was, you know, despite all problems, it was real fun to do this film.
Hi, I'm Lars Hubrich. I wrote the screenplay together with Marcus, the director, and yeah, happy to answer any questions.
And can I just say this? I love, Marcus, that your last name is Lenz and you're a director. I thought that was kismet. Obviously, this is what
you mean spring in German.
Say that again.
Lenz is another word for spring in German.
Oh,
actually.
Well, that's lovely. Okay, so let's talk about this movie. I think right now, especially, with so many feeling the effects of isolation and what it's like to be disconnected or alone, not sure of your next move. The timeliness of this being presented right now, certainly at the festival, is uncanny. Everyone is feeling like Roman, kind of, in a way. Talk a little bit about what experiences or thoughts kind of led you guys to tell this story about a little boy who is separated.
I think isolation was always a topic of my movies. You know, it always interested me, and I think it's a feeling, you know, that we all know for basically all of our life. You know, I think we all try to break this isolation, and I think, you know, this feeling of getting close to somebody else is so strong in us that when you come to a situation where you actually, you know, can't manage, when isolating becomes reality, that this is really featuring something in our body that we really start fighting for this. And especially in this case, we have this mother and son relationship, and I think it is because around the world we have so many countries where people need to emigrate because of a lack of work, and mothers and fathers leave their hometowns to work abroad, leave children alone, and children need to grow up without parents. And especially the mother-child relationship is probably the strongest relationship that you can have. When children are separated from their mothers, they really start longing for contact, and this boy really starts to fight for the contact. And obviously there was no corona when we started the movie, but I think it's really a kind of a general topic of all the movies I ever did.
Yeah, when Marcus and I started writing this, when we had the first draft of the screenplay, the refugee crisis in Europe hit, and people were telling us we should really incorporate this into the film. But we were hesitant to do that because we felt like it's a more universal story, and actually incorporating contemporary events would date it in a bad way. So we're happy that we didn't do that and stuck to the story that we wanted to tell. And now it sort of coincides, it's happenstance or synchronicity, if you will, that the film is coming out, and I think it resonates in a different way with people. But from the very get-go, isolation was definitely an issue. And you know, being a writer, you know, self-isolating is sort of a daily thing for me anyways. So it was easy to get my mind set to that.
And you guys tell that part of the story in so many layers. There's separation and isolation that comes because of language disparity. He is leaving his family, and you know, outside of being separated eventually from his mother, he's separated from the family that he's known, because I'm not sure how long mom has been gone working. So there's so many different moments of separation. From the other thing that I like, and this just might be me looking for all these little interesting Easter eggs, but I loved the way it felt to me that vision being obscured kept coming up. If you go all the way back to the beginning of the movie, we see the grandmother with coins over her eyes. You know, he's in the fog constantly. He's behind bags in the van. You know, even if as morbid as it is, he puts that box over Gert's head, and you know, in theory, Gert's eyes are obscured. Was that intentional at all, or is it just kind of the happenstance of what isolation feels like?
It's partly planned and partly things happened in this movie. I mean, we wrote several years on this script, and there's a lot of ideas that we really wrote very detailed. So step by step, we follow this development of things. And we also created a lot of visual pictures, obviously. On the other hand, I felt that working with a child really needs a special way to work with an actor. He was never on screen before. It's his first film. This boy is really 9 years old. And I was very, very interested to show this story, tell this story from his point of view. That was, and to discover actually how a child would feel in a situation like that. So Lars and me wrote the script for such a long time, but actually the boy has never seen a single word of this script during the shooting. I don't know how Lars feels about it. I feel very fine about it. It was a risk, but I felt that we should more like explain the situation day by day, you know, and really asked him, how do you feel? What would you do? And then he did something, he surprised us, but it was what a 9-year-old boy would do in a situation like that. Of course, there was some kind of leading by the director, but also some kind of freedom. So we have this mix of, you know, coincidence and control. And, you know, everybody warned me before this shooting that, first of all, I will never find any child who would be able to act like this 9-year-old. All the others told me, like, never work with animals or children. You know? You know, we casted hundreds of children in Ukraine. I found this boy, I was kind of scared as well. You know, I was very, very scared that we wouldn't find the boy. I was scared that, you know, I would maybe fail directing. I was scared that the boy would lose interest after a week or two. All this didn't happen. And I feel that this, you know, this lack of control also was an opportunity to see the world with his eyes.
It takes a lot of humility, though, as a storyteller, to let it play out that way. Was that nerve-wracking?
No, I did a lot of documentary films, and so I'm used to situations where I lose control, and I'm very much used to get surprised, and I feel, often what comes out in improvisation, or what the stories that reality tell to you, are very often more interesting than what you can imagine on the desk when you write everything. On the other hand, of course, Lars and me wrote this, and we wrote it, I think, because I was very sure about the script. Maybe that's why I could let it go. I knew that the story would work, so I could say like this. There are situations that we do completely different.
Yeah, and for us as producers, it was a real, a very interesting undertaking. We were really thrilled by the script, reading the story of this boy, but we, on the same point, we thought it would be a very big challenge to find a child to be able to play this, and it's a film which handles not a very common topic in Germany, so it was very hard to get financing, and we were at a point where we had like 60% of the budget, and he said, okay, let's go for it, there won't be more. So we had a Ukrainian co-producer, and they were for some reason not able to bring up money. So we said, okay, let's go. And since we are also coming from documentary film producing has always been a mix of adventure and madness, so we were used to it.
Look, because truth is always stranger than fiction. That's the way it goes.
And I felt like, to come back to your question, I felt totally fine. I know Marcus's work, and we've known each other for a long time. And we worked very hard on the screenplay. And when he told me the way he was going to work with the child, I was very happy to hear that, because I knew we had a strong foundation in the screenplay. Yeah. So I think if we had just an outline or something, and then would have done improvisation on top of that, that could have been a recipe for failure. But we had a strong, very tightly structured screenplay. So within those confines, there was enough space to open up for improvisation.
For the shot nerds, let's talk about all of the anxiety that you guys created in that last act. Much of it depending on angles and sound, and because Roman doesn't really have language, I don't think, really, in that last act. It doesn't feel like we hear him say much. Talk a little bit about the movie making of that last part.
I think I once wrote down the amount of dialogue that Roman has in this movie, and you can have it like on 1/3 of a page, handwritten. That's his dialogue. And still, he kind of manages to carry all the movie on his shoulders. It's the part of the movie that I like most, when nobody's speaking anymore, and that's probably something. How did we plan it? I don't know. For me, it was very important that during the movie, the power balance is all the time changing. I think that makes it interesting. That we don't say, okay, there's a bad guy, there's a good guy, and that's it. But you really get to know the characters, and they're all kind of dependent on each other. There is this mother who's like obviously dependent financially on her employee and lover. The boy is anyway dependent on the adults. But then we have Schwarz, the German guy, who is kind of also dependent on the mother because he's in love. He's emotionally dependent. And then later on, you have the boy, and you feel like, okay, wow, he's the victim here. But then again, something happens, and the power balance changes, and that's I think one reason why it works. That you saw a situation and suddenly it's different. Then we have this boy who is just a miracle for me. I don't know how it is even possible that a 9-year-old boy can act like this, and yeah, he doesn't have dialogue, but he does a lot of things, and he does them in his way, and I had to see, like every director, I had to see this movie, I don't know, 300-400 times in the editing room. And I'm still surprised that, you know, he does things in this particular way, you know, when he waits for the mother. And, you know, he thinks she's coming and he prepares the cake. And, you know, he has in mind that she only eats the crumbles of the chocolate cakes. And then I just told him a little bit. I don't really remember it. And then he prepares it. And he takes 4 forks and puts them next to the plate. And I love it very much. I don't know why I love it so much. You know, it seems like nuts. I love it. He does this because it's not logical. He has his own ideas why he does it, but he does it, you know, or the way he's kind of handling to move this really enormously heavy body, and that's how he pushed it to the stairs. And, you know, I didn't really tell him how to do it, you know. We just put, you know, we put the actors there. It's not him who falls down the stairs, obviously, but all the rest, it was Udo Samel really lying there. And somehow, you know, he's inventing, how can I push him? You know, what can I do? You know, and then he leans and he's pushing him with the legs. And because he's really inventing it in this moment, I think this makes it interesting to watch. Yeah? And he's trying to survive, obviously. That's the other storytelling element. But it's this mix of, you know, a strong story, strong situations that Lars and me created, and this freedom of doing it the childish way.
It's really ingenious because at some point we lose that. So even the best writer just doesn't have that magic anymore to think, oh, I would lay on the floor and push it with my feet. That goes away with adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus and I, we spend a lot of time just brainstorming situations. What would a child do, right? So we had a lot of situations that we wrote down, trying to put our own minds back into the mindset of a 9-year-old. But obviously, the actor came up with much more surprising and interesting things, right? So that's a real gift.
So as people, you know, the film ends and everybody's sitting there with their mouth open. Is he okay? Who is that man? Why is he in the woods? Men alone in the woods are usually a bad thing.
We were actually discussing the end a lot because there were different variations, but we were really thrilled by what happened. You know, Yeliza meeting that man, which wasn't really planned. You know, it was some kind of this wonderful coincidences. You know, and Marcus had really the ability to let things happen. You know, and that was really some kind of instinct. You know, between those two guys. You know, and that was, for me, it's such a strong end. You know. Leaving it really leaving it really open, you know.
Let me tell you a secret. This end was not planned at all.
Yeah.
This end was not planned at all. I had the feeling during the shooting that I need an end where the boy somehow becomes wild again. You know, it was clear that he runs through the forest. We had 2 different ends that we wrote also. But I had the feeling, you know, he needs to become some kind of animal again. You know? And then I thought, okay, how can we do that? You know, like, yeah, we can make him dirty. We could, you know, whatever. You know, he loses his clothes or he's losing more and more. But then I felt he needs some kind of a partner. Mm-hmm. And we thought, oh, maybe there's a man just collecting mushrooms in this forest, and he meets him. And then I let it go. I let it go. I talked to the boy, you know, I told him like, okay, this animal idea, you know, maybe you become some kind of animal. What should it be, you know? And that's what I told him. Then we shot this scene. And the man asked me, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And I told him, let's see. You will know what you do in this situation. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And we roll the camera, and the boy discovers the man, and he starts to shout at him this way. That was not told to the boy. I just told him, you become an animal. And the man starts to shout back at him. And I knew in this moment, this is the end of the film, but it was really not planned. And the whole team was standing there, mouths open, you know, feeling that this is a magic moment of cinema. I didn't really know what it means. I had a strong feeling to it. Now I have an idea why I'm so fascinated, but this is like, it's not a complete film improvised like that, but that was really not planned at all. But I love it.
I love it so much. And thank goodness, because when you got there, you didn't meow like a cat.
There is this famous quote of a French filmmaker, was it Chabrol? I don't know. He said, for a good film, you need only a beautiful girl and a gun. And we know you need a boy and a gun, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I think maybe we'll all just kind of imagine however we want it, that next scene to end. That's the way best stories are told, is that you're still thinking about the characters and their well-being and what every moment means. And I appreciate it that you don't answer all the questions in the film. Thank you. Thank you to everyone watching. And I am going to toss it back. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.